My name is Russell Staples. I grew up in South Africa and served in the church for about 20 years in Africa, and then came to Andrews and taught here, and we've been here for a while. Now I'm recalling, and I've been through the materials I've collected over the years of the beginnings of Adventism in South Africa, going back to the very early days. First, I need to give a brief historical survey of the history of South Africa, because as the background of what happened there. In 1652, the Dutch occupied the Cape Town area in South Africa, and the purpose for them doing so was to establish a colony to serve vessels on the way to the Dutch East India companies. And so Cape Town was established as a town. It's a beautiful place with the mountain and all of that. About 30 years later, 1680, the Edict of Nantes, which had protected the Huguenots in France, was withdrawn. And many of them were granted asylum in the Netherlands, that's in Holland. And the Dutch then encouraged many of them to go to Cape Town. And so they did as they went there. And this is part of an amazing story of South Africa. Now, the Dutch themselves were reformed, Bible-believing Christians, and the Huguenots were almost even more so. Calvinists, Bible-believing. The Dutch Reformed Church, they were believers of the same pattern of belief, certainly serious Bible-believing Christians taking the Old Testament seriously. The Dutch Reformed Church united them all, and church and schools and so on. And strangely enough, a part of history, the Huguenots lost their French identity. And many of the great leaders in South Africa, if one thinks of the names, Marais, Dutoit, de Villiers, Viljoen, French names, but they lost all of this. But they certainly greatly enriched the Cape, united. And they were serious Bible-believing Christians. Shortly before 1800, the British occupied the Cape. Some people have called it the Napoleonic enrichment of the Cape after these wars. As part of them, the British took over the Cape and sought to establish themselves there. In order to strengthen their position, particularly in the Eastern Cape, they set about recruiting many people to come from Britain. They wanted 4,000 people. They offered them each free transportation. They offered them 100 acres, all free, in the Eastern Cape. And I've read some of that literature. They said, "We are inviting you to the most facilitating climate in the world. No serious snowstorms. There's plenty of good rains, fertile soil. It's very good for farmers." And 4,000 did follow. And apparently they did very well, because shortly thereafter another 1,000 followed. And these. Now, I'm interested in the Christian background of South Africa for them. Most of these who came were Methodists, but there were Anglicans, there were Puritans, there were a variety of group. But within a period of about 20 years, under the leadership of prominent mission leaders, particularly William Shaw. They established 7 mission stations among the Xhosas, and soon schools and college and so on. There was a great development. And Grahamstown, the area in which the settlers would centre, became nicknamed the City of the Saints. In other words, you have Bible-believing Christians, and Methodism became, as it were, the ruling Christianity of the area. Serious Bible-believing Christians as they were there. By about 1870, there were thus 2 dominant religious groups in South Africa. The Dutch Reformed Church, which even until recently has been one of the most fundamentalistic, committed Christian groups of the world, and the Methodists. You could say the same thing about them. There were tensions between them. And subsequently, years later, when I was a member of the Ministerial Association in Cape Town, these were still the 2 largest groups with much interesting discussion between them.